So I was recently contacted by a video publishing company called Packt. Apparently they'd seen my videos. I imagine it's the only one of my videos that actually got a reasonable audience, the fun with channels in Go, and thought, well, maybe I'm a reasonably friendly guy and I can make some videos. And they've asked me to make a bunch of videos about AWS Lambda in Go. Now, as you know, I'm very familiar with Go. I've done a reasonable bunch of videos. Most of my work for the last few years has been programming in Go. So I was very happy at the idea of making a video about Go, and then they said an AWS, and I've never heard of it before. So Amazon's serverless computing architecture is quite a massive beast, and there are people all over the web using it. I just hadn't come across it yet. And so, of course, I had to spend a lot of time doing research, working out whether I could plausibly make a bunch of videos about this. But I've now done the series, and it was overall quite an interesting experience making this series of videos. So do go check it out. I'll show you the intro to the course now, so you can tell me what you think afterwards. And then I'll tell you a bit about my experience working with Packt. So you've created this fantastic new web service, and you've bought a server and you've put it online. And after a little while, suddenly this service goes viral. And everybody is coming to your website to see your service. But unfortunately, because you didn't buy a big enough server, when people arrive at the service, all they're getting is a blank page. And this is at the point when the most people could have been using your service. Well, you're not going to make that mistake again. So next time you prepare a service, instead, you buy all of the servers you can possibly afford. You build a massive network of completely intermingled servers that all do specific jobs, and it's built up with a fantastically complex architecture. You put it online and you wait for it to go viral again. But this takes a while, and while that's happening, you are paying for all of these servers. If only there was some way that you could have a system that would grow as it was needed, and you wouldn't have to pay extortionate amounts while it was still waiting to grow. Enter Amazon Web Services. Now, with Amazon Web Services, you can write your code and your code will run, and you only pay for the time your code is running, or for the services you use at the amount you use them. It's built to scale, so it can do all kinds of things at massive scales or at a small scale. Now, unfortunately, with everything that scales, when you're working small, sometimes there's a bit of an overhead and some complexities that you might not expect if you're thinking of a small project. During this course, I will introduce Amazon Web Services and how we can program for it using Go. Together, we will go through how to build a complete application, starting from the ground up, learning how to write your lambdas, etc., learning how to use the storage systems and permissions and roles. And by the end of this course, you will have built a chat application which allows users to log in and talk to each other, all hosted through Amazon Web Services, but served as part of your domain. My name's Matt Stoodley, and I'm a software developer and storyteller. And you can find out more about what I do at storyfeet.com. But let's get on with this course, shall we? I'll see you there. So yeah, Amazon Web Services. Have a go with that by all means. I'm not completely sure what I think about Amazon Web Services overall. I can see why you would have to use them, or why it would be a good idea for your company to use them. Having done all of the stuff and learned everything about them, I wouldn't necessarily recommend them for everyone, but there are definitely people who I think it's a good idea for. And if you've got to learn Amazon Web Services for some reason, then my course is probably as good a place as any for learning it. The advantages that I have is I had literally just learned all this stuff when I teach it. So I am very familiar with what it feels like to be learning about this stuff, of trying to find everything around it. I've tried to make sure that I could actually make a viable course on the subject, and I found out so many things that, yeah, I do think that the course that I've made is a very helpful course if you find yourself in a situation where you need to use Amazon Web Services. If you don't need to use Amazon Web Services, it's probably not worth it for you. But by all means, go have a look. So now on to my experiences with Packt. Now, the first email I got from one of their guys, I won't say their names because I don't know what I can say here, but one of their guys, he contacted me and said, I've seen your videos, we like your content, would you like to make some content for us? And we'll pay you. Basically, and talked about the idea of a good working relationship in the future. And this intrigued me because it's not often people actually offer to pay me directly. They normally require me to put some money up front or something. You know, I'm sure you're all familiar with various spam emails. So I thought, well, I'll follow this up, see where it goes. And of course, my first question was, do I need to put any money up front? And the answer was, no, we will pay you to make videos. So I was kind of interested in that because, you know, I make these videos on YouTube. I've got a very small channel, and my primary reason for making these videos was to learn programming for myself and to maybe get myself employed. So here's employ. So then we had to go through a bit of an interesting process of putting together a course on Amazon Web Services before I could sign a contract with them. We kind of had to try and get the course approved. And so I had to kind of run through, and I had some ideas of how I could make this course. I looked through Amazon Web Services, tried to find anything, because I really wanted to be able to basically make something work as a website on my own domain. That was the big thing that I thought would make it viable. If I couldn't do that, then Amazon Web Services was of no value to me, and I couldn't see. But at this point, of course, I haven't really been paid. I'm just like trying to work out whether I will get paid, because I've never heard of these guys before. So I'm trying to ask questions to ascertain, you know, whether this is a real company, all things like that. And everything seemed to come back legit. They're based somewhere in Birmingham, I think. And me living in the south of England, that was too far for me to actually drive and check on them. But and so for the first couple of weeks, I'm thinking, is this worth doing? You know, a lot of struggle. Should I put in the time? If I waste this time, if I spend all this time doing this, what's the worst that happens? In the end, I decided that if they don't pay me for the videos, if nothing happens, if nothing really comes of this, then I've still learned about Amazon Web Services, and I can post these videos on YouTube. And I came up with an outline, and I thought it was a reasonable outline, but they wouldn't accept it. The team, they were like, we can't work with this outline, this plan. There's too much JavaScript, and you're not really working with Go. And I thought, well, if I got to get people interested in Amazon Web Services, I kind of need to show the initial stuff. And I guess I misjudged some of the times of what things would take. But after quite a lot of backwards and forwards, we did work out an outline that I was happy with and that they were happy with, that I thought was possible and that they were okay with me making. And so they greenlit the project, and I had to start. And I've never been published before. This is a completely different experience. So he put me in contact with someone who had a load of knowledge about video, and I didn't have that. So for me, this was quite a lot of learning about what it is to make a good video. I'm recording on my stuff, so I was very grateful for the extra feedback that they gave me on laying out my screen. And at the time, I had a terrible microphone. I thought it was a reasonable microphone, but it was terrible. I meant to buy a Samsung Go mic, which a lot of people recommend. In fact, I read a recommendation online for a Samsung Go mic, and I accidentally bought a Samsung Go Direct, which is nowhere near the quality of the Samsung Go. And these guys, they wanted me to give reasonable sound quality, and I have to admit, this kind of encouraged me. The fact that they actually cared about the quality of the content I was putting out was a big positive. I thought, okay, there's probably something legit here, you know. I was still not sure. Until I actually received the first payment, I wasn't completely confident that this was a real thing, you know. But they told me, well, there was a video recommendation saying the Snowball mic was a good one. And so, that's, in the end, I thought, well, I better buy this mic. And so I did. And here it is. It's kind of shiny. Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised to find that they were willing to pay me for it. Although it turned out that that was just part of the advance, that was still pretty cool. I mean, getting a contract with an advance and proper royalties seems quite a pleasant surprise. So I was very happy with that. So I got the contract from them and I read it through and I thought it was fair. I wouldn't say it was super generous towards me, but I'm a first-time creator for the platform. They've not really met me before. They couldn't necessarily know what my quality of content would be. I mean, they'd only seen a few of my YouTube videos. So I thought it was fair, and that actually encouraged me. In some ways, if you're promised £1 million on the contract, you might start to go, what's that? Is that real? Whereas this, it felt more real and the royalties seemed fair as well. So in the end, I thought, well, we'll keep going. And making the videos, sending them back and forwards was a challenge because, when you make a video, there's a lot of editing you've got to do. You've got to pull stuff out and you've got to make sure the content's right. And live coding or coding in a video is an absolute nightmare. Like, I don't know how many times I make mistakes, and sometimes I leave them in because I can't fix them, or sometimes I have to I'll be recording and I'll say, funk, do this, variable name, and type it up like this, and then of course they got to cut it, and you've got to be able to watch these videos, right? So I've got to find, every time I pause for more than like 2 seconds, I've got to cut those pauses out. So that takes a long time, and one of these videos turned out to be incredibly long, like 20 minutes worth of video, but I was trying to get it as tight as I could because they told me that I should keep my videos to 12 minutes. I'm like, where can I take something out? And 12 minutes was a high end, really, because a lot of their videos are generally 5 to 7 minutes, and it's time to cover the material, and I'm like, let's write a program in this and then another one in this, and so it didn't completely go exactly as I was expecting. But overall, I finished the first week, I got the first advance, and I thought, I've been paid. I'm actually legit being paid to make videos. And even that was still hard because there were still a couple more things there were some of the projects in the videos were absolute nightmares to record. So with one video, it was an hour's worth of recording, and I did all of that, and I did the editing, and I cut it down with all of those spaces, and then I started recording the next video and the next video, and then about 2 videos later I discovered that something I'd said in the earlier video was completely wrong. It didn't actually work out at all as I'd expected, so I had to go back and redo this good long hour-long video, and I was starting to get so frustrated. That one video took me like 3 weeks to get done. Most of them were much quicker than that, but I tell you, during that one I was ready to quit this project. It was just driving me crazy. But we kept going and we finished the videos, and then there was a couple more things, simple things like writing a quiz to make the course kind of feel a bit more coursey, and a couple more metadata things, making sure all the information about the course was right and workable, and simple things like that before the project was really finished. But when it was finished, and again, I feel like there's a lot of reasonable here. I really felt like, obviously they're trying to make a professional course, so I've got to do my highest quality videos I can. So overall, I'd say I'm really happy with Packt. I'm really happy with the final quality of the videos, and again, if you do want to check them out, I'll put a link in the description below. And that's everything I really want to share. So thank you for watching. My name's Matt from storyfeet.com, and see you next week.